Genesis 5:21-27. So today it talked about Enoch, who was the father of Methuselah. And it talked about how Enoch walked faithfully with God 300 years. And so most of his life, he lived for 365 years, and for 300 years, he was faithful and he walked with God. And I remember in the Bible, it just talked about how what God desires is that you love justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with the Lord your God. And it's just like that kind of like image about just walking side by side with God, or maybe sometime he walk in front and you walk behind, following his footsteps. It's that just like companionship, that closeness. It's what God desires, and like for Enoch to walk with God, and God says that he walked faithfully, and then he was no more because God took him away. So he never experienced death. So before Jesus came, God already can, like, pretty much like whip up people, like just pick them up and take them. It's like how God would have been so happy, like, with people who love him wholeheartedly, and where he just like say, okay, I'm just gonna pick you up and you're not gonna experience death, and like I'm just gonna take you. And it's that's the heart of God. And I mean, during the fall, during Enoch's time, there's already people killing each other. There's already sin. It's after the fall, but Jesus haven't come and paid sin yet. But God's salvation, God's plan of salvation is still there, and God still can save. God still can have people not experience death. So it's just I want to be that person, that makes the heart of God like just fill God with joy, to the point that he just want to pick me up and take me out of the world. And so it's a big privilege, but it's also a big task, a big responsibility that Enoch was able to walk faithfully for so long. And then it just talked about Methuselah living for 969 years. But then he died. So I also remember like Elisha, I believe, either Elijah or Elisha, where God took him up in a chariot of fire. So there are times where God does that. So, and it's actually very interesting because in the Shu King, one of the first books, and it's written in Chinese. So it's one of the sacred books of the Chinese. So the Chinese had a system of writing like for a long time, and they wrote so I think the Shu King was written maybe after the flood, but in there it has like language that are similar, where people are no more, and people believe that it meant that they died, but I think it actually might mean that they were taken away, because the first few people that belonged to Noah probably were very godly. Like they lived through a time of great wickedness, and they saw what happened, and so I think they really knew God. The three people that was listed there. So I don't know Chinese, but I read a portion of it, and it's account. I think it's a great compliment to understanding what, like, the Bible is the source, the primary source, but if you read that in light of what the Bible says, it makes, like, it makes a lot of sense.